Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. The infant of Krypton is now the Man of Steel, Superman.
There exists an idea of the perfect human being, someone who is a cut above the rest in every way, someone we all want to be. Superman has been touted as this overpowered character, that because he's godlike, we can't relate to him or what he can achieve. With the power to pull planets, outrun speeding trains, and take a hit from a laser cannon, how could we? But this is taking a surface look at what the character can do, not the character himself. Breaking it down to the absolute bare bones, who is Clark Kent? Well, he's an immigrant for starters. More than that, an immigrant who can't let others know he is. His real parents are dead, he grew up in a small Kansas town, and he went to high school where he had to deal with bullies and crushes like everyone else. He could have become a star athlete at any point, or cheated on any test imaginable with his X-ray vision, but that wasn't the life for him. He wanted to do more than live. He wanted to fight. Fight for truth, justice, freedom, and the American way. The American way is defined as a nationalist ethos that adheres to the principle of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is what Clark Kent wanted, now and forever for all the world. He's a foreigner trying to improve the lives of everyone he meets. Having powers didn't make his life easier, it made his responsibilities all the bigger, the stakes higher. We connect with Superman not because of his powers, but because of what he chose to do with them. When there's a character with this much richness, lore, whose defining symbol is known better around the world than the flag of his adoptive country, how do you represent him? How do you convey the pure, raw power and generosity of Clark Kent, the man from Kansas? Alex Ross was born in Portland, Oregon on January 22nd, 1970. He had a vested interest in art all his life.
I think the dream of any person going into a craft, into the arts, is to feel supported when you're doing it, and it's been my fortune to have a parent who was working in that field. My mother was drawing a little bit when I was a kid growing up, but before I was born, she was an artist working in advertising and some paid illustration back in the 50s before she started families. Finding that I wanted to base things upon reality. I wanted things to look real, and that's the way her artwork was bent towards. She came up in the same art school that I would go to, and her focus was on realistic illustration, but I also was looking for a certain kind of dramatic physical appeal that the world of science fiction, fantasy, and comics seemed to hold, and really that wasn't a separation from realism. It's just I had to find that correlation between all those things. And the thing is, those things have always been a part of a whole. It's just a matter of what subject matter you were focusing on.
1996. At age 26, Alex Ross was given the job of taking DC's best and bringing them to life. With Mark Waid writing the script, the duo was given the challenge of meeting the character depth and deconstruction of a small project by Alan Moore you may have heard of, Watchmen. While Waid's script focused on the meta-narrative of darker, edgier comics beating out the classical, more reserved views of the 50s era, Alex Ross brought his photorealistic style from his former projects, like Marvel's, and set about filling every panel with as much detail as humanly possible to make this story all the more tangible. Taking a look at one of his drawings, we see that Captain Marvel wasn't just outlined and shaded. The lightning bolt wasn't just tacked on with some lightning here and there. His clothes have weight to them. You can imagine finding a gold material like that in real life. You can see how the sand beneath his feet has turned to glass after the lightning strike, and you can feel how heavy his cape is to hear it flapping in the wind. All just from one image. Collected into 4 issues, Kingdom Come tells the story of what happens when Superman leaves the world to fend on its own. He thinks he doesn't have a place in a world where people cheer for the deaths of one another. While he's gone, though, his home state of Kansas is completely obliterated due to a botched job by some overly aggressive teens with powers going after a supervillain named Parasite, their headstrong attitudes resulting in the death of millions. Superman and the old Justice League reform and the day is saved, right? Well, not exactly. As violent as the new regime is, the old regime resorts to making a literal gulag to contain anyone who doesn't side with them, attempting to re-educate them and change their worldviews. A tug of ethics results in the only possible outcome: prison break. The fight's hard and on an epic scale, and the UN has had enough of superheroes tearing up their world. They're ready a nuclear warhead capable of killing just about everyone there, and launch it with little debate. There's an old pastor being made to watch and judge all this by the Spectre, Hand of God. Wonder Woman and Batman are fighting, Lex Luthor has a robot army, lots of regular comic book hubbub. But let's take the text away for a second, and see what's really up. What story do the images tell? Captain Marvel is on the scene. He's confident, bold, clearly has his head in the game, and he's in the power position. Superman, on the other hand, is shocked, amazed even that this could be happening at such a pivotal moment. We're in the thick of it all, and a vertical line is separating the good from the bad, except we don't know which is which. Vibrant, bright tones serve only to inspire a sense of growing dread, a fire splitting the foreground and background as flyers fight in the air and gods on the earth. There's so many lines of division and battle, it would be impossible to tell who was winning, even without the shadows. In the middle of all this chaos, there is the priest yelling out for all this insanity to stop, for the right hand of God to do something. But the Spectre is calm, eerily so, unaffected and unfeeling towards the chaos the heroes have brought upon themselves. We cut back to the main fight. The low angles show that these gods among men are truly above the rest. Superman is raging in confusion, having no idea why Captain Marvel would have turned against them. Marvel makes use of this blind rage, and begins to gain an edge, his smirk telling us he's confident he'll win. But we see there are angels and angels above them still, ready to bring about judgment. The humans have done it. They've made a bomb capable of ending the reign of the Superman, once and for all. The world leaders try and argue and debate its use as the army is ready to go at a moment's notice. But the man at the podium yells loudest of all. He's tired of superhumans, and everyone else is too afraid to stop him. The man at the podium has their approval. The mission goes ahead. But it was a farcical confidence. The bright skies, the saluting, it was all a facade. He needed to hold himself together. He needed to do what needed to be done. The fight rages on. So many people in one panel it's hard to tell what's even going on still. Batman arrives, tries to cut the violence short with his ragtag group of friends. But it's too late. The first death has come upon them. Battle lines are redrawn. A new dimension of combat has been entered now that blood has been spilled. Friends turn on one another, realizing they have a common enemy, all too late. Superman is doing his best, but it's clearly not enough. Captain Marvel has the edge, beating him out blow after blow. Batman and Wonder Woman have come together a moment too late. The bomb is dropped, and we see as the only man present fears for the lives of the gods below. Superman at last gets the upper hand, using Marvel's own magic to turn him back into his human state. The day should be won. Then Clark Kent from Kansas hears something off in the wind. The bomb is coming, and fate will soon make its choice. Priest challenges a being as great as God himself to do something, anything, to stop the bomb, to save the heroes that can't save themselves. But the Spectre says it's not up to him. It's up to the priest to decide who is punished. Superman has realized that he can't stop the bomb and keep Captain Marvel at bay, so he tries a new approach. He lets Billy Batson, the man who's been a god and man all his life, decide how to end it all. He can either let Superman save all of them, or he can let the bomb drop and kill them all. Superman doesn't know which choice is right anymore. But Billy does. There's silence. The silence of death, of rot. Every panel is filled with a hollow scream. Man of Steel alone has survived Armageddon. A face represented as fatherly for so long, filled with so much hope for the future, has in an instant become riddled with a rage and fury, all concentrated in two red spots that once saw the good in man. Fate is content. feeling that judgment has been rendered, and is ready to let Superman go on without the knowledge of survivors. But a single man who's seen pain, misery, and horror for hours on end stands up to the envoy of God as the envoy of man and says, "No, we're going to make this right." Alex Ross would go on to pencil for numerous profound comic books like Superman, Peace on Earth, Batman, War on Crime, Shazam, Power of Hope, and Wonder Woman, Spirit of Truth. Instead of sweeping epics about planets colliding and monsters from other dimensions, these were short tales about the daily lives of heroes, cutting them back from the powers of gods and the technology of the future, and putting them at their most basic roots. Alex Ross isn't someone who loves comic book characters. He respects them. He believes they deserve more than a splash page or some cool shading. These characters who've inspired and amazed millions don't deserve a comic book. They deserve a masterpiece.
They also were the ones on television the longest and the most for my generation, growing up with the Super Friends, that was the thing that, silly or not, I identified as being the ultimate in known superheroes. And even as a silly kind of thing, I always wanted to connect with them as a creator to make work with them that would elevate them to the way that I felt about them as a kid. Draw whatever thing you have to draw every day. It doesn't matter if that's boring. Bring to that the level of execution you bring to everything else that you care about. Then you can really bring it to the things you're inspired by.